So fashion people, I don't carry my tutorial and we'll be learning another beautiful method on how to cut a trouser. And with that being said, so let's get started. So just like every other trouser, you need your round waist, your round hip, your round knee, and then your trouser length measurement. Just as you're seeing on the screen, this is all I'll be using. I used 2.5 yards of crepe. Each yard I got for 1,000 naira. Okay, now this is my fabric folded into two. Okay, so here if you're cutting directly on the fabric and want to manage the fabric at the same time, just go ahead to divide your hip by 4 and add 3 to 4 inches extra allowance, and that will be enough for you to cut out the material you use for the front only. Okay, now for this tutorial I'll be minusing 2-inch, which I'll be using for pan. So I'll go ahead and place the tape this way and go ahead to take my basic measurements. I'll take my trouser length measurements, which I already marked out, and I added extra 5-inch for ease allowance and folding allowance. I'll go ahead and mark it out. Still placing my tape this way. To get the crotch length, I'll divide my hip by 4 and add extra 1 inch to it and mark it out this way. Now from this crotch line, all you want to do is go up by 2 inch to get your hip line. Okay, now in case you don't know your client's hip, just go up by 2 inches from your crotch length and you get your hip line. So still placing my tape on -2, I'll go ahead to measure my knee length, which is 22. I'll go ahead and mark it out. So after getting my basic measurements, I'll just take my ruler and roll out all the lines across. So after marking it, I'll go ahead to indicate the hip, the crotch, the knee length, and this is me marking the wrong side of the fabric. Okay, so just watch closely. I'm going to go ahead to divide my hip by 4 and add extra 1/2 inch to it. You can do 1 inch if you want. Okay, so moving forward on that crotch line, I'll go ahead to mark my hip divide by 4 and add 1/2 inch sewing allowance. So I'll mark it all upward this way. You can use your free hand, but I used my ruler to extend the line upward. For this method, to get your crotch extension, I'll divide my hip by 20 and go ahead and mark whatever I got. Use your own measurement, please. And on this hip line, I'll go out by 0.25, just 0.25, and I'll go ahead to connect it this way with a curl. So you know the drill. I beg, subscribe and share. So back to the tutorial. I'll go ahead to divide my waist by 4, mark it out. I'll add 1 inch for that there and go ahead to add 1/2 inch for my sewing allowance. Now if you don't want to add that, just go ahead to divide your waist and just add your sewing allowance, and that's also I'll connect it down this way. Okay, so now after doing that, on the crotch line here, I'll divide whatever I have there by 2. I'll get a midpoint that will help me to get my round knee measurements equally. So I'll just go ahead to mark whatever I got there. I'll extend it all the way down, just the way you're seeing me do. I'll put it on my knee length and also I'll mark it on the floor length here, and I'll connect it to the street. I usually don't connect it, but because of tutorial sake, we'll do this just so you see everything clear. Now divide your round knee measurements by 2 and distribute whatever you get there equally, making sure you add your sewing allowance. So whatever I have on my knee length, I'll mark it on the floor length as well. From PALAZZO, I'll just go ahead to connect the lines just the way you're seeing me do this way, and we are done with the front. So basically that is all for the front, just the way you're seeing it. So before we go ahead to cut it, I'll come down by 1/2 inch, 0.5 on the waistline and connect it up this way. So for this part, I'll cut it out after I finish drafting out the back. Guys, we'll be using the front to trace out the back, but just make sure that the back material is wider, with even if it's at least 5 inches than the front. So I came down here by 1.5 inch, and on this other side I came in by 2 inches. So our measurement is starting from this line that I marked out. In the process, you'll see what I use those parts for. Go ahead to place the front, making sure that part here is touching that white line, and that hip side is also touching that line on the other side. Go ahead to extend out the hip line, the crotch line, and also the knee line. Okay, so while I'm extending it, just know that this method is perfect and it never disappoints. I'll extend the waist and I'll just mark it that way, and on the crotch line I'll place my hand this way and just mark out that point where my hand is like that, and I'll go ahead to extend. Move the front and go ahead to connect all the lines together, just the way you see me connecting them this way. I already know this is the crotch, this is the hip, and then that is the waist. Where my tape is, I'll go in by 1.5 on the crotch line, 1.5, and on the hip line I'll go in by 2 inch on the hip line. I'll connect it upward. It's going to look slanted this way. All our back measurements will be starting from there. So to get my back crotch length, I'll divide it by 10 and mark whatever I got. So I'll go ahead and do that. And on the hip line too, I'll go out by 0.25 and I'll connect it with a curve. So I used my curve ruler, I curved it half first and then I completed it this way. Now on my hip line, I'll go ahead to divide my hip measurement by 4, mark it, and then I'll add ½ inch sewing allowance. I used ½ inch. Okay, so for the butt extension on that part there, I'll go up by 1.5 and extend the line upward by 1.5. So from there, I'll slant my tape downward, not straight, downward. I'll go ahead to divide my waist by 4 and add my 1 inch for that, and then I used ½ inch for sewing allowance. Okay, so on that point there, I just went up by 0.5, and I'll go ahead to connect the line together. So again, I went up by 1.5 and then slanted my tape to take my measurements accurately. So I'll go ahead and connect the line. So I'll connect it down to the hip line this way. Now I'll go ahead to bring back the front, making sure it's sitting properly well. On the knee line, I want to go out by ½ inch for sewing allowance for the back. I'll do that on the other side as well. So I'm going to do the same thing downward, and I'll go ahead to connect it the way I'm pointing it this way, just the way you see me. I'll just go ahead to connect all the lines together. Basically, that is all with the drafting, and like I said, this method has never disappointed me. So I'll now remove the front, cut out the back, and just watch closely how I cut out the back. So you know the drill. Please subscribe to this channel. See, even for no reason, I beg, just subscribe, share, and like this post. Okay, so for the front, I am trimming out that ½ inch we came down with when we're drafting. Okay, we're done with the drafting part, and all I want to do is just go ahead and start sewing. First thing I'll do is to stitch this front downward and also stitch the back. Okay, so after stitching both of them, for the front, I'll go ahead to insert my darts, making sure my tape is starting from where I stitched. So I'll be using 4, and I'll go ahead and mark it, and I'll open it up by 0.5 on both sides. That's my dart, 0.5, and I'll be going down by 5.5 for the front. So from that point there, I'll still go in by 4 and connect a straight line, and I'll connect the other darts together. So I'll be doing the same thing on the other side as well. Okay, so this is me doing the same thing on the other side of the front. And also for the back pants, I'll go in by 4 from where I stitched. I'll open it up by ½ inch on both sides, and for the back I went down by 6 inch. So for the back that is a bit slanted, so from that point there, I'll be going in by 5.5, not 4. I'll mark 5.5 and I'll connect it upward to the up part. This we see how slanted it is, so that's how the back that is ought to be. I'll be marking the same thing here on this other part of the trouser. So guys, I'm through with stitching the front and the back dart. So for the front, I'll go ahead to sew in the zipper. Okay, so after fixing the front zipper, which is looking all clean, the next thing I want to do is bring the back, making sure the right sides are facing each other. I'll go ahead and place it on the front and shape it with ½ inch allowance that I added. I'll make sure I shape both of them with ½ inch. After doing that, I'll go ahead to trace out the waist band. Okay, so this is me now opening the front zipper, making sure everywhere is clean. And just let me be sincere with you, this trouser was supposed to be plain, but because I noticed how plain it was, I went ahead to add a cargo pocket, and I'm sorry I didn't film this part. So for the waistband, I added my gum stay. You can use hair stay, it's all your choice. I'll just go ahead to fix the band to the trouser this way, and I'll also hem the lower part as well. Basically, our trouser is all put together. So this is the final outcome of the trouser. I hemmed it down and I added this rope to it just to give it more beautiful look and make it look more stylish. So basically that is it. I hope this tutorial was helpful. Thanks for watching.